Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm Becky, and I'll be your host. And today we're going to be talking about retiring in Thailand with my guest, Ramsey. Ramsey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I think there are so many people that are curious about where they're going to retire in the world, and we want to share why you might want to consider Thailand.
Absolutely.
All right, so Ramsey, can you tell us about yourself and what led you to decide to choose Thailand to retire? And tell us about your background, where you came from before, what you were doing, all that
Sure.
jazz.
Um, majority of my life was in the United States, and a vast majority of that was in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I consider myself from Las Vegas, even though I wasn't born there, didn't grow up there. But 25 years of my life was in Las Vegas, and I always loved it because at the time, for a majority of those years, it was something for everybody at all price points. It was clean and relatively modern, and it had everything people know Vegas for, but a lot of things people don't know Vegas for. But starting about 8 9 years ago, I started kind of seeing the decline, prices going up, things becoming a little unaffordable, and some part of that is I was just getting bored. I'd been traveling pretty heavily, so I'm 50 years old now. But when I turned 40, really was when I kicked off. I mean, in my late 30s, I was traveling, but at 40, I really started just going hard. I was trying to get to 100 countries, and I started seeing the world differently. Every time I'd go, well, that was cool, and even places I didn't like. I was grateful to have gone because you have to have something to compare against. So I really just got in my head. I'm like, I don't really need to live in the U.S. And I think that it's one of the biggest hurdles for especially Americans. We're kind of bred from a very early age to like everywhere is dangerous, everywhere is bad, everywhere is expensive. Don't go anywhere. So I think I didn't never had that mindset. And then as I traveled more and more, I just started thinking about where I would want to live. And Asia was probably last on my list. Never, I never found, I was never particularly attracted to Asian women as, like a lot of guys are. Asian food is fine, but it was never at the top of my list. So a lot of the things like never occurred to me, and it's halfway around the world. But about 12 years ago, I had started going to Cuba. Now, geez, now 14 years ago. And I'm a cigar smoker, been a cigar smoker my entire life. So that was a big bucket list for me. Got to go where the best cigars come from. And I enjoyed it. And I had a really good time and I loved it. And I kept going more and more and more. And 9 years ago now, I met my wife in Cuba. So my first real experience of living abroad is after we had dated kind of long distance, me going back and forth for a year, I decided I was going to live in Cuba. And we bought a property there, which in her name because foreigners can't own. And I decided, all right, this is it. It's inexpensive. I own a house outright down there now. I'm going to live in Cuba. Very big mistake, but at the time, it seemed like a good idea. And I wanted to change and I wanted the new experience. So that was what started me on the idea of living abroad. Unfortunately for me, and more unfortunately for Cuba, Cuba is stuck in the 1950s in every way, shape, and form. And it's not about roughing it; it is about surely, just going without, just literally going without internet, mail. Forget about things like Amazon and all that, food, and so many things. And after a couple of years of that, I quickly realized, okay, this is not going to be possible. I mean, it's punishing. I'm very grateful for those years because it taught me so much. One, a language. I'm fluent in Spanish now, but two, all other countries, all subsequent countries are now easier. So it's like that was boot camp. That was so no immigration line, no forms, no things that I encounter here or any other country is challenging anymore. It's like compared to what I did in Cuba, that's easy. So that was, the process of that. So we went to Vegas. My wife and I got married. We went to Vegas, and we were in Vegas a couple of years. But that as the pandemic kind of started, again, I didn't want to be trapped like everyone else, of course. And we were just getting frustrated, and prices were only going up instead of going down, which didn't make sense. So we went to Colombia to visit Medellin, Colombia. Figure she speaks Spanish. I'd been there before, and I really loved it. So when I took her there, kind of like somewhere during the pandemic when they allowed us to go down there, we were there 4 months and we had a really nice time. And then we went back to Vegas. But that was it. At that point, it was in our heads that she had more independence down there. She was more comfortable down there. I liked it. It's the greatest weather on earth. You've been there, so I mean, the greatest weather on earth, and it was still pretty inexpensive. And so it was in our head a little bit like, why don't we just move there? We can live there. So that was the next process of, okay, so we sold everything in Vegas, and conveniently for me, not that I was a genius, but at the height of pandemic pricing. So I got pretty lucky. Like all my cars, everything we got rid of, basically I got top dollar for. And I'd like to say because I was some financial genius, but that was when we decided to move. So that's when we decided to move. And Colombia has that thing where if you buy right around $100,000 in property or more, they will give you what's called an investor visa. So you can stay there. And so I did that. I bought an apartment. And before I can even move into it, I found one I liked better to rent. And I got mine rented for more than what my new rent was going to be. And when I rented the place I bought, I realized I was getting 12% a year in rent plus appreciation. I was like, this is pretty cool. That's a great investment. Is this repeatable? And as it turned out, it was. So I bought a few more in the same building, ended with 3 in that building, and they're all rented out. They've been rented out for 2 years, pretty much nonstop with a really good return. So that was good. And we enjoyed Colombia quite a bit. But like I tell people, anywhere you're going to live in the world, it's like a relationship. The first year, it's the giggles are cute and the funny little habits are, it's adorable. But it takes a while for the shine to wear off, and everywhere has its negatives. And at least a year or two before you really start seeing the cracks. And after almost a couple years in Colombia, the cracks were safety. Nothing ever happened to us or anybody we knew, but we knew it was not that environment. We basically had to adapt to them, not them to us. So don't wear a nice watch. Don't go here. Be careful with your phone out in public. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't do this. I'm like, well, you're training me instead of the criminals. And that kind of bothered me a little bit. And it was becoming a very big digital nomad hotspot, passport bro place, vacation spot. And so prices were climbing really fast. Like the writing was on the wall, which was good for my rentals, but not good for my cost of living. So early last year, I decided my wife had never been to Thailand. I said, I've always loved my time in Thailand. Let's go for a couple months and let me just show it to you. So we came here for 2 months and we did Bangkok, Pattaya, Phuket, Chiang Mai, Koh Samui, Krabi. So I really gave her to like pretty much all the places an expat would live and show her to the country over 2 months. We had a great time. And then we went back to Colombia and, I kind of said, would you live there? And she goes, I had a really good time, but halfway around the world, I don't speak the language, far away from my family, on and on and on. She's like, I don't know. But we both experienced the same thing when we got back to Colombia, which was now that sense of danger felt really elevated because it doesn't exist here in Thailand. And the food was getting a little bland in Colombia. And after being in Thailand, it was really bland. And we just started kind of getting itchy, like, I don't know. So I said, now's my time to sell it to her. I said, why don't we just go try Thailand for a year? If you hate it, we have homes in Colombia, we can go back. So she agreed. And so we moved out here officially pretty much exactly a year to date. I've been here 1 year.
Wow, what a
And
journey. But you've really
yeah,
been testing things. It's not like you just randomly went there and thought, well, let's see how it goes. But you're still in the giggle phase, say? Like you haven't.
yeah, yeah. I'm definitely still in that phase here. I already see the cracks. And so now, again, my previous experience shows me the negatives faster. It shows me also teaches me how to deal with them better too. So some things that bother a lot of new expats here don't bother me at all, or I know how to adapt to them and fix them quicker too. So there's benefits to even failing. And I don't consider Cuba or Colombia a failure. It was, I tried, like a lot of friends would ask me that. Well, I thought you said Cuba was it? I go, it was at the time. Well, I thought you said Medellin was perfect. It was at the time. I said, I'm not tied to any one place. Find me somewhere better. I would at least go check it out and give it a shot. I don't have this mentality of like, that's it. Everybody hold still. We're good. I never have that mentality, which is why I never say I really live anywhere anymore. It's like, I'm here and I'll be here until such time as that either I find somewhere better or this gets worse.
Yeah.
This it's not rocket science. And I think that's a good mentality to have for anybody. It's also like people think they have to make this lifetime commitment. I didn't burn my passport and like commit crimes on the US on the way out. Like, I can't go back. I can go back. I can go back to any of those places or new places. And I think the minute you change your mentality to like, I'm just trying this, and there's nothing wrong with trying and saying I don't want to stay here. It's like a new food. Maybe you love it, maybe you don't, but no harm in trying it.
So are you in Thailand on a what kind of visa are you on right now, and how did you apply for that to get you and your wife
So
in?
one of the best things about Thailand at my age is once you turn 50, they have a retirement visa. And it's like the easiest thing in the world to get. Basically, you have to be 50. And then my wife gets it as just being married to me. So it doesn't matter what age she is. And then you have to have 800,000 baht, which at the time I did it was about 23,000. Now it's like 24,000 US dollars in a Thai bank account. That's one way. There is a way if you have a pension in the US of like, I think 1,800 or more dollars a month, and you can show that, that would also cover your financial requirement. So it's not that hard. And honestly, not super legally, kind of gray area. Visa agents here will also put the 800,000 in a bank account for you, get you your visa, then take the money back out, and you just pay them more money for that. We didn't do that. I opened a bank account here when I got here. I put more than that amount of money in there because I need money to live on here. So for me, that requirement was not a requirement. It's like, yeah, I have a bank account. There's more than that money in there, so we're good. It took 2 days. The visa. I literally, when I turned 50, I gave my passport, paid them the fee, and 2 days later, they're like, come get it. You're good. You have 1 year, multiple entry. And then my wife, we applied for hers right afterwards. And same thing, real easy.
So it's good for 1 year at the beginning, and then you
Oh,
reapply.
1 year at a time. You must renew every single year.
Okay.
It's cheaper and easier to renew. And if you want to do it yourself, a lot of guys do it themselves. That's one of my lessons. You know, knock on wood, I'm blessed to like have enough money to not have to deal with this, but I'm okay paying for headaches to go away. And so, yeah, it's not rocket science. You go down to the immigration office, you fill out the forms, you pay the fee, passport photos, this form, that form, this form. But for me, it's not a lot of money. It's a few $100s for a visa agent to do it, and then I don't have to not only cross my T's and dot my I's in Thai. So I don't want to make those mistakes. And even losing a day or two of frustration would not be worth it for the money for me. But it's pretty easy. Now, there's a lot of other visas here that I have friends on and that people do, and to really just sum it all up is what I tell people all the time in my videos. If you want to stay in Thailand when you come here at any age, as long as you have a little bit of money to throw at the problem, and by money I'm $200-300 a month, and that's like the max. As long as you have that much money to throw at the problem, there's a million visa agents here that will make it happen.
Great.
Gray
Yeah.
areas, questionable, whatever it might be, but you can stay in Thailand pretty much indefinitely. And now they've made it real easy. The new DTV visa, which is Destination Thailand visa, which is geared for digital nomads. Like as long as if you have some job outside of Thailand and you show that you have just a little bit of money, they'll give you that 5 year visa. Pretty easy, pretty inexpensive. So that one's going to be really popular. Student visas, there's wealthy pensioner visas. So if you have high earner, there's really good long-term visas. You can buy visas with the elite visas, which are really expensive. But if someone had the money, they was like, I don't care. Here's $30,000. Give me a 5 year visa. I don't want to deal with anything. That's also an option. But the lesson I've definitely learned is Thailand is the king of like, if you have a little money to throw at the problem, and whatever the problem is, they'll fix it. They'll make it go away.
So did you choose the 1 year renewable visa to start because you weren't sure how long you wanted to be there?
There's no other option. I mean, honestly, for me,
Okay.
it's it. Once you're 50, that's really the only visa you should get because again, it's very inexpensive. It's stable. It's been around forever, and there's really nothing to it. I'm always going to be 50, so that requirement's gone. So now it's just as long as every year when my renewal comes up, it's like, and you can even the $24,000, 800,000 baht you put in the bank, you could use half that while you're here during the year to live off of, and then just retop it up before you apply for your renewal. So if someone was like a little more worried about that, so yeah, when next July when my 1 year comes up, I basically just go in and go, here's my bank book, money's still in there, good, welcome aboard. Here's another year. So it's indefinite, and yeah, it would be super easy. There's not a whole lot of reason unless you were going to be here not full time. If you're going to spend up to 6 months a year in Thailand to avoid maybe any tax implication that might be coming, then they've now changed it where like most countries get 60 days on arrival plus a 30-day extension. So you get 90 days without needing a visa at all. And then you just pop out for a quick border run, or even after 3 months, if you wanted to go to Cambodia or Vietnam, have a little trip for a week, come back, do that again. Well, there you go. There's 6 months, no requirement. I mean, that's just free now. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of ways to stay here and not really have to worry about it.
All right. Well, you mentioned you went around to many different cities in Thailand with your wife, you're checking everything out. Where did you end up choosing and why?
So I'm in Pattaya, which has always been my least favorite part of Thailand. So I have a very big love-hate relationship with it. Pattaya has a horrible reputation for being like, sex pack capital and seedy, and it is all those things in certain areas for sure. So from the very first time I ever came to Thailand 10 years ago and visited since then, and even when my wife and I came here last year, we both liked Pattaya the least. We both like Chiang Mai the best. But here's what has happened. And this is the thing you learn when you're living here. We got lucky shortly after we lived here. I came with a dog. So I've had the same dog since before we started doing all this, and he goes everywhere with us. So we brought a dog. So we didn't want to be in an apartment. We wanted to be in a home. And right when I got here, I was looking to find a home. I was trying to find a home by the beach because that's the image you have, and not much of a thing in Pattaya. But an agent showed me a home about 20 minutes east of like the beach in central Pattaya, and it's called Lake Maprachan. It's a lake, and there's a country club out here, and it is really, really nice. It's basically all old retired expats with a lot of them with their Thai wives. There's no real apartments out here. It's all big homes with pools, and it feels a lot kind of like the States in that aspect of it. It's still Thailand in every single way, but there's way less traffic, way less noise. And if we're in a very big, beautiful, quiet neighborhood. So that helped. I found a neighborhood that kept me away from the bar scene and the noise. And, I said, look, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I would have probably loved it there and I would have never have left. But nowadays, I'm married. We're a little older. We go there once a month, twice a month, like a circus. We go look and point, people watch, and then we come home. So that didn't work for me. But everywhere else that a tourist or an expat would live, unfortunately, doesn't work for us. I love Bangkok. I hated Bangkok in the beginning. I now love that city because it's like New York City on steroids, but safe and cheap. It's the greatest. But to live in Bangkok, you kind of have to be in an apartment. You have to be very centrally located. And now I have two dogs because we got another dog while we've been here, and we don't want to be in an apartment. And so it doesn't work. So Bangkok's kind of, but we go there once or twice a month to have a great 2-3 days, and we love that. So Bangkok was off the list. Phuket, never been for me. Phuket and Koh Samui, I'm not an island guy. Maybe one day, but I get island fever. They're beautiful. They're great to visit. But after a while, like I need more options and I need to be able to get around. And so for me, islands were not the option. Chiang Mai is amazing. We both love Chiang Mai, but you have 2 to 3 months of burning season, which is the worst air quality on planet Earth. And every couple of years, they get flooding really bad. So Chiang Mai is amazing for 7 months a year. And then, you deal with other, in best case, 9 months a year to 10 months a year. If we didn't have the dogs, then we would say, oh, we'll just travel those months. No big deal. But I don't want to leave the dogs in that environment. If it's unhealthy for me, it's probably not healthy for them. So it continues to elude me. The burning season is not going away. And I've much as I've tried and tried and tried to think about, like, how can I make that work? The only solution is to not be there during those months. So you're paying rent, even though you're not there. And I don't want to leave the dogs there. So it's just not going to work for us. The other locations, I mean, Hua Hin's a big one now. It's just the other side of the Gulf here in Thailand. It's kind of like Pattaya, just a little quieter. I went once and looked at it. I could see it being great for older retirees, especially if you need less bars in Hua, but it didn't really seem like it was any different than where I was here in Pattaya. And that's about it. Those are the areas pretty much that an expat would live. Unless you get married to a Thai, you want to be out in the middle of nowhere in the country, and that's your life, which not my life. As big and beautiful as Thailand is, you pretty much end up in those 6 areas if you're an expat. So here we are. I keep doing the full circle of like, but then I also realized the area I'm in Pattaya, outside of it, I love. It's quiet. We have amazing restaurants. I don't know anybody. It's no noise, no nothing. So honestly, it's suited us well. We're an hour and a half out of Bangkok. We're close to a bunch of islands. We have airports nearby where we can travel. So if I look at it from that perspective, I've just had to rework my mind of like, what I didn't like was the sticky, seedy downtown area, which I never have to go to. There's nothing there I need.
Yeah, you're really making the case for Pattaya.
Yeah,
And
and
yeah,
it's cheap. And it's actually, for those who are like price conscious, it's one of the cheaper parts of all the places we listed. Phuket, Koh Samui, Bangkok are all more expensive. The only one that's probably relative is Hua Hin and Chiang Mai are kind of similar price points.
do you mind sharing around what you're paying? And you're renting? Not you can't own
Yeah.
in Thailand, right?
You can own a home legally. There's gray areas, but I'm not planning on doing them. So the first house we moved into, which will be a more realistic situation for most people, was a 3-bedroom, 3-bath pool villa, as they call them here, because it had a pool. Nice neighborhood, about 2,000 square feet, 200 square meters, and that was around $1,000 US a month, about 35,000 bucks, and that's in a nice area, by the lake here. You can get that for cheaper. You can get it for a little more, but that's a good number to look at to be in a nice area with a nice size home. While I was online looking, whatever it is, I saw this home, and I worked with an agent because I actually bought a small apartment here just to screw around with. Don't recommend it. But that same agent had this house listed, and this house is 6 bedrooms, 6 bath, 4,500 square feet. It's like a huge mansion. I mean, it's ridiculous. And it's got a pool table upstairs and a fish tank. And they had it listed at like a price that I thought was kind of lower, because I always look at homes because I'm curious. I'm just looking at what rent is, because I'm thinking from a business perspective. And this home was listed for less than it should have been. So being that it was the same agent, I said, can I go look at it? And she said, yeah. We came and looked at it, and it was amazing. It's like this beautiful, again, it's modern. It's only 4 or 5 years old and has a beautiful pool and the whole bit. It's a great entertaining house. And the bedrooms are all spaced out. It's very, very big. So I was still in a lease. I was only 8 months into my 12-month lease. So I figured, well, if I'm going to move, I'm going to lose my deposit. Let me make it worthwhile. So I kind of lowballed the owner. But the owner had been traumatized. She's a nice Thai lady living in Australia with her Australian husband. And the previous tenants had re-rented the place as a party house and Airbnb. A nightmare for any landlord. So she was already traumatized. And the house has been sitting for 3 months empty. So I said to her, look, I own rental property. I feel your pain. You have a 6 bedroom house. This is going to happen again, or you're going to get a very large family that's going to put a lot of wear and tear in your home. I said, for me, it's just my wife and I. We're not partiers. We're not drugs. We're not, none of this. So, and I'm going to take better care of your home than I promise you even will, because I take care of my homes and I take care of other people's homes, maybe more so because they're not mine. And I basically offered her to pay the whole year up front in cash so she wouldn't have to worry about it. So I did all the things that I knew from a landlord. I was like, oh, that's all good. Yeah, that makes me feel better. So she took it. I pay $1,500 a month for this house.
That
which
is
is
unbelievable.
It's insane even by Thailand prices, by the way. This home would normally rent for $2,500 a month, maybe up as high as $3,000 a month. Even by Thailand prices. But like I said, I got lucky, and I think she's happy too. Like, I've fixed little things around the house, and I take really good care of the house, and she's been super grateful. She talks to me on the phone. She's like, oh my God, you're like the dream tenant. I'm like, I promised you I would be. I said, I will take care of your place, and it's just two of us. Now, will we stay here long term, even if she keeps that rent the same, which I'm not sure she will? I don't know. It is a lot of house. It's a giant house, and it is just my wife and I and 2 dogs. We've had a lot of friends over. I have friends visiting now from the States, and it's nice to be able to host people and say, yeah, go get that bedroom, go get that bedroom. We'll meet out by the pool. It's nice, but long term, it's a lot of house to, wander around in for the most part.
I mean, I feel like I don't even need to ask you this question now. I'm like, why did you not choose to retire in the US? Or like, why should people go to Thailand instead of the US? But prices alone here like seem to
Yeah.
sell it,
I mean, the number one thing is going to be price. The number one reason, and unfortunately, but what I tell people all the time is, don't choose Thailand because it's cheap. Choose Thailand because you like and love Thailand, and it happens to be cheap. If you only choose a place because it's inexpensive, it's not going to work. So my rule of life now is, for where I live, and in the right order, is safe, cheap, and delicious. Right? Those are my three. So if it has to be safe, right? We don't want to live anywhere it's dangerous. Otherwise, what's the point? It has to be affordable. If you can't afford it, then it doesn't matter. And then for me, it has to have really good food. And Thailand hits all three of those really, really, really well. And the more I look now, the way the world's changing, you're in Southeast Asia if you want those three things. Unfortunately, there's places that are very safe, Dubai, not cheap. There's places that are very cheap, a lot of South American countries, but not safe at all. So to get safe and cheap in the world today, you're in Southeast Asia. That's just the shortcut and bottom line. And then you get delicious food on top of it. Especially Thai food is amazing. And we have every option. There's not just Thai food here. There's everything you can ever think of. You've been here, so it's like everything you can ever think of is here at a good quality level. The people are nice. And we'll probably get into talking about that, people there. But the number one reason not to live in the States is we were spending, before the last 3 years of prices going up, we were spending double what we live here to barely live. And we live like, absolute kings here. We really do. We say no to nothing. We travel all the time. We eat anywhere we want without ever thinking about the price. We get as many massages as we want. That wears down a little bit. In the beginning, you're like, I'm getting 2 a day. They're amazing. I mean, they're like $7, $8. But then after a while, you're like, your body's like, dude, once a week is fine. But yeah, we do whatever we want all day, every day. And it comes in at half what we used to spend in the States. And we're extravagant. We're not the average budget here. And one of the things that's amazing about Thailand is at any budget, you can live here. Like you can not die here for $700 a month. And that's the budget of what I call that budget. Like you will have a roof over your head, your belly will be full, you'll be in a safe neighborhood, you'll be fine. It's not a great life, but you will not die. As a single person, especially without a lot of healthcare costs, $1,500 a month, maybe 2,000, you'll have a nice little life, nice middle class lifestyle. You'll be fine, and there's no limit. That's the thing people don't understand. Like there are no people have this image of Thailand as like this poor country, and no, go to Bangkok. There is Ferrari dealerships and Mandarin Orientals and $50,000 a month apartments and all the Louis Vuitton and Gucci anybody would ever want. So what I love about it is that any budget you can find your place. You're not priced out at any point, which is amazing. And very few countries do that, by the way, too. Sometimes there's no top end. So like Cuba, there was no middle end or top end. And a lot of countries, there's no low end. Like if you get to a certain threshold, you're in poverty and you're suffering. Thailand doesn't have that. At any level, you can live here and be okay. And that's an amazing part of it.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the healthcare. What experiences have you had with healthcare in Thailand? I think a lot of people don't realize how good it is.
It's amazing. So thankfully, my wife and I are both healthy, so we have not had anything major. But I'll just give one quick anecdote to when I was here on that vacation last year, when I was still in Koh Samui, I thought I got a stymie, which I've never really had, but it was bothering me. Well, the nice part about Thailand is you walk into any pharmacist and they become like your nurses. So most things here are over the counter at a pharmacy. They're not need to go to a hospital. So for example, I take cholesterol meds. I buy that over the counter here through the pharmacist, very inexpensive. Anything like that, antibiotics, all that. But the nice thing is the pharmacists here generally speak English. And she looked at my eye, looked at it. Okay, you'll need some antibiotic drops. Here it is, blah, blah, blah. 5 hours later, I'm out the door. Well, 4 days later, we'd gone to Chiang Mai, and it felt like it was getting worse, not better. So I went to a pharmacist there, and he looked, and he goes, you should probably go to the hospital and have that looked at. Okay, I said, well, what's the best private hospital in Chiang Mai or nearby? And he told me. So I went there, walked in at 11 a.m. sharp. And I walked in, and they said, hi, how you doing? What's wrong? And I said, I need someone to look at my eye. It hurts, basically. Okay. They took my passport, made a photocopy of it. I signed a little paper. The nurse took me back, and instantly I saw a nurse, did all the vitals, weighed me the whole 9 yards. Great. Have a seat for a minute. The nurse took me in to see an optometrist, and they did an eye test like you would do at a normal optometrist. Great. Have a seat. And then took me to see an ophthalmologist who did the drops in my eyes, the puffing, all that other stuff, and said, basically, your tear duct is infected. That's why it's not getting better and it's hurting. You're going to need antibiotics, something for the pain, and something else, like 3 different meds. I said, okay, cool, great. He said, the nurse will have you come out and then you can go pay and you'll be good to go. I said, okay. At this point, I'd been there maybe 30 minutes. So the nurse takes me to the cashier and I said, hey, where do I go to get meds? Oh, no, your meds will be right here at the next window. They're included in all this. I said, can I pay with a credit card? She's like, yeah, because I don't know what this is going to be. It was $48. So I literally pay with my credit card, $48. She takes me to the next window. Here's your 3 meds. By the way, we made you an appointment for a week from now. If you're better, don't even just throw it away. You don't have to come in just in case you want to come in at a certain time and you know we're here for you. 40 minutes from the minute I walked in at 11:40 a.m., I am walking out the front door, meds in hand. I've seen an ophthalmologist, an optometrist, and a nurse. Everybody spoke English. It was like being at a spa. I was almost happy to be there, and I walked out, I was like, what the hell just happened? Like, how amazing was that experience? And it was $48. So that was my first experience with healthcare here, and it's been absolutely pretty much like that. I've had a full health checkup here in Pattaya at Bangkok Hospital. And again, that was a full day of x-rays and everything you would do with a very, very deep physical. And you get the results back instantly in a packet and talk to a doctor in and out of there 5 hours, no appointment. And they fed me lunch. And that was like 150 US. And I had a crown fallout. Again, just Googled best dentist near me, went, walked in, was in the chair in 3 minutes. She said, we can put this back. It's a nice ceramic crown. It come loose. We'll clean your teeth. We'll put it back in there. Or I can make you a new one. I go, well, if you say that one's good, let's put it back in. Half hour later, teeth are clean, crown's back in. It was $27. So it's really amazing for self-pay. The only issues that people may have is as you get older, almost all healthcare insurance in Thailand does not cover pre-existing condition. So if you come here as a 70-year-old or 65-year-old, you're going to have a lot of pre-existing conditions, as we all do as we get older. And buying healthcare that will cover those is going to be very hard to find or very expensive. And that's the only kind of problem in that situation here. If you have some money, obviously self-paying is not the worst case scenario. But if you're on a fixed, if you come here with, a $2,000 or $1,500 a month Social Security and you're 70 years old, you're going to struggle because you're not going to have the cash to self-pay major medical problems, and you would qualify for Medicare back home. So you're kind of better off in that spot. So that's where it becomes tricky for older people. But everybody else, as a young digital nomad, 40 years of age, more or less, you can buy decent health insurance here for $100 a month that will cover major stuff. And like I said, I've shown from my experience, just going to a doctor is a $30 to $50 event. Had my teeth cleaned twice. That was $25. And I'm not trying to find the cheapest Thai only. I'm trying to find like good reviews on Google, speaks English, deals with foreigner dentists. So it could be much less. I'm just very happy with those numbers.
Yeah, what I love too is they have preventative care. Like you mentioned, this checkup that took you 5 hours. I mentioned that I did this to my sister who lives back in the US, and she's like, wait, why are you getting tests if there's nothing wrong? It's just it's not available to a lot of Americans because it's just so expensive, and it would save your life potentially.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was chest x-ray and it was a testosterone test and it was all these things. And the doctor was great. Like, it was this very old Thai doctor who spoke great English. And the only thing that was wrong with my wife was her cholesterol was a little high. And he just looked at her and he goes, so meat has cholesterol, fried foods have cholesterol, fish, less cholesterol. He goes, eat more fish, less of the other things. And she's like, okay. He's like, good. Like it was such common sense, not, oh, we're just going to give you some pills. Never did he mention putting on cholesterol meds. He's like, it's not that high. Just do this. And there was no rush. You never felt like, go, 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 go. It was like, sit down, let's talk about this. And same thing with me. So yeah, I've only had the greatest of experiences here when it comes to healthcare. And from the vast majority of people I speak to, they say the same.
I do want to ask you too about like the locals. Do you have local friends who are Thai? What is the expat community like where you're living in Pattaya? So do you feel like you have that community around you as well?
Yes and no. So that is the positive and the negative. And like, I know it was another question of what's the negative of living here. So generally speaking, Thai men do not associate with foreigners. That's the general rule. It's amazing because Thai women really want to associate with foreigners, for better or for worse. But Thai men, almost like we don't exist to them, they don't exist to us. They're friendly. I'm not in a bad way. Like, they'll see, they'll bow hello, helpful whenever they want, they can be, but they're not looking to be your friend. It's just part of the way the culture is structured, I guess. I haven't exactly figured it out, but it is the case. So now, obviously, if you learn to speak their language, maybe especially if you're dating a Thai woman or if you're living, in a different area, that might be a little more possible, but that's the general rule of thumb. So I'm not looking to meet women. I don't speak Thai, and the Thai men are not exactly falling over themselves to be my friends. That becomes a pretty big struggle. The other one is, and this is a Pattaya problem more than other places, and this is a me problem as well. I'm at a weird age to be retired. So everybody here in Pattaya is young and partying, and maybe has no money or is like backpacker, whatever it is. So not my fit, or old, and by old, like 75, 80, already has a Thai wife. Like, they're not doing a whole lot. So I'm in a weird spot. And I've been here. I basically retired at 45 and I've been in this spot for a while because it's like people my age are in the family still, business still, career still. They can't just do all this. So not like I'm going to find a lot of guys my age here in my position. So that has probably been the biggest struggle of living here. Thankfully, my wife is here. My dogs are here. I have made friends here. Part of the reason why I started the YouTube channel was it gets me out more. And I've met some cool guys from that, because the YouTube channel is really who I am. Like, I don't hold back because I don't need it for money. I actually, it's pretty blunt to the point, but that was good for me because now you get to know me and if you're like, oh, this guy's still cool, I want to meet him, then we're probably going to get along. I'm not dancing around it. So yeah, there's plenty of expats here, no shortage at all. And I will say too that some of this is my fault because there's pickleball here, there's golf here, there's chess clubs here. So what I say all the time is just go do the thing you'd like to do anyway, and you'll meet like-minded people. There's a lot of gyms here. There's a lot of bicycle groups and motorcycle groups and everything else. So if you just did your hobbies, probably a quick shortcut to finding like-minded people who want to do the same thing. So in that aspect, no shortage of expats. But if your goal is to come here, and I see this, it's a big error I see from people like, I'm going to Thailand. I'm only going to eat Thai food. I'm not going to hang around with any foreigners whatsoever. I'm just going to hang around. I'm going to be local. And I made that mistake in Cuba early on. You will never be local. You will never be Thai. You'll never be accepted as anything but a foreigner, for better and for worse. You could be here 50 years, speak the language better than they do, have Thai grandchildren, live out on the farm and help during the next flood. That's great. They'll appreciate you and respect you, but you're not Thai, and you'll never get that layer. So I think the mistake people make is like, oh, well, I don't know why you want to have foreigner friends anyway. I want to have Thai friends. Like, good luck. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's better learn the language real fast, and it's a difficult language, and you're going to have quite a bit of a learning curve there.
Yeah, no, it's realistic to set those expectations early and just to know how it really is. Like you said, you're telling it like it is. Can you tell us a bit more about your YouTube channel? What's it called? Why did you start it? What are you covering there?
So the channel is called Ramsey Travels, Ramze Travels. And I started it almost for a couple of reasons. There's three reasons there. One was when I was researching even Colombia and Thailand, I could not find a single video on what it would be like to live here on, let's call it 4,000 or 5,000 US dollars a month. What does a middle-aged, middle-income couple expect their life to be like here? There's endless videos on night market food and $200 apartments and how to live here like a king on $1,000 a month, which is a big lie. But there's endless ones of those. And then there's the guys that like, we're going to see if we can spend $5,000 in a day and we're going to stay at like the 7-star, whatever. That doesn't help. So because I couldn't find those videos, I go, well, maybe I'll just make them. So that was one. Two was I wanted a hobby. I wanted to learn to edit video better, and I didn't know how to do any of this. So I figured it'd be kind of cool, give me something to do. I'm a tech guy. I do like that kind of stuff, but I never had to do editing. So I figured I'll learn something to do and give me something to do. And three was I would meet people. I figured what a good way to like make new friends and meet people. So that's why I did it. And I kind of also wanted to prove myself. Like I told all my friends, I'm like, I will not stop till the channel's monetized and I make $1. Like I want to say I got monetized and I was a professional YouTuber. Like it's kind of one of those things like that was my goal, was like I want to get monetized, not for the money, just to say that I did do it. And I've long surpassed that. So that wasn't, pretty relatively quickly. And it's been fun. It's been challenging. It's been not without its downs. I mean, you lose privacy, which I don't particularly like. People say the meanest things to you in comments, which I have pretty thick skin, but there's no way to avoid all of it. But it's been more positive than negative. And I really get a big kick out of like people going, dude, you helped something. Like I did a video about how to bring your dog here, which again, didn't exist. And so people are like, oh my God, it wasn't a widely watched video because it applies to so few people. But the ones who watch are like, oh my God, you saved my life. Like this was so much easier. I've been running around crazy trying to figure out how to bring my dog there and I couldn't. So it's been rewarding. I like that. I like helping people. And then because, again, thankfully we're blessed. We don't need the money from it. Everything we make from that channel, we donate to one or two charities here. One is called Father Ray's Children's Village, which is near us. And they're great. They have like 160 kids at the location near us, and they house them and school them and feed them. And they don't call it an orphanage because they're not orphans, for the most part. We like that. We've sponsored a few nights there where we go feed them and hang out with them, do all that. When I bought the apartment, I donated like all the furniture to them. So it's a needy cause, a great cause, and we love them. So that's half, and the other half goes to the Soy Dog Foundation because we love dogs. So basically, everything the channel makes goes to those two charities. And I call it selfish. It's not selfish because, I get a lot out of it. It's like I get to, help those charities, but I get a good feeling out of it. And we like seeing the kids, and we like going and having dinner with them and hanging out. We love dogs. And that's always been my wife's motto, is that we like to take care of dogs and kids because they're the two living things in this world that cannot fend for themselves. I know there's adult charities and there's things that are also worthy, but for us, kids and dogs can't defend for themselves. And more often than not, they didn't choose to be in that situation. So that's who we choose to put our money towards. So that was another big, huge plus on the YouTube channel is we were already going to donate some money, but now it's more than we would have donated, so it's great. It's a win-win.
Well, that is fantastic. And how much you've done, even in the 1 year you've been there for Thailand, for people thinking about Thailand. So great. So congratulations on your channel.
Thanks. As I said, you do a Cuba boot camp for a couple of years, you can really fast track everywhere else.
Do you recommend people live in Cuba for a year to like
No.
train
You know,
themselves?
and now it's sadly getting worse, not better. My opinion of Cuba after all is said and done is it's an amazing place to visit. It's a terrible place to live. This is why people are risking their lives to leave there. Um, it has a special place in my heart. I mean, my wife's from Cuba. I always have a special. I have a couple homes there. I'll probably never use again, but we have family in them. That's great. But it's a place everybody should visit at least once. It is 1950s, and it is all nostalgic, and it's unlike I've been to 60 countries. It's unlike any place on earth by a lot. So I think it's cool to visit, but living there is, especially for as a Westerner, it's all but impossible. And there's no visa scenario. You can
Right.
go as a tourist for a month or two, but that's it. They have no path to anything, which is ironic. They should be welcoming of people and money coming in, but such is not the Cuba way.
Yeah. And how is your wife liking Thailand after 1 year there, being a person who did not speak Thai, fluent in Spanish?
Yeah, so I'd say it's probably a bit of a struggle for her in the beginning. She definitely did not really want to leave Colombia because, again, it was comfortable for her there. She loved Vegas, when we were in Vegas. So I'd say if you'd have asked her 2 or 3 months into the year, she would have been, no, I want to go back. If you asked her now, she would choose here over there. So I think they've won her
Wow.
over. I told her, I said, she doesn't speak a lot of English. I said, but neither do the Thais. I said, and most of our day to day interaction is just 100 words everybody needs to do their job. Hi, check, can I have water? It's like basic gets you by here. And I said, those words, you're on equal footing with them. So she had to get that in her head too. And I think she's really become appreciative of the safety. I mean, she can go anywhere. She goes out in the streets at night with the dogs. It's dark streets. There's no fear. It's such a safe place. People are so friendly. The bowing and every. I mean, you walk into McDonald's here and every employee is doing this. And that kind of comes in and like you start doing it back and you notice it. You start feeling like this is nice. This is nice that people do that here still. So I think that started to have a great effect on her. She does realize we live very, very opulent here. And if we went back to the States, we would not. We'd have to definitely reduce a lot of our lifestyle. So she does not take that for granted. And we've traveled. We've gone a bunch of islands, and we've gone a bunch of. We try to see a lot of Thailand. So every time we're on this amazing beach, it looks like it's out of a postcard, and someone's bringing her an ice cold coconut to drink out of. Yeah, exactly. Every time we're in little spots, she's like, "Yeah, how do you get away from this?" But the biggest one I think is she loves Thai food too, which is a really big plus. So I think
Oh,
we're eating
yeah.
like delicious food and relatively inexpensive and the safety. And she goes, yeah, I hate to admit it, but where else are we going to go? So she begrudgingly gives it the credit that it deserves, but deep down she does. She loves it.
Oh, that's great to hear. My final question, which I'm curious about is, so you said you're never going to be Thai. And I know you also said I'm not never committing to one place. I'm always open to going to new places. How do you, when you think about the future and staying in Thailand, if you're never going to be Thai, do you think that that's okay? You can still choose to live in a foreign culture that is ultimately not your own because of all the other benefits?
There is challenges to it because you have no security. There is it's not impossible to get residency and citizenship here, but it might as well be. It's very, very, very difficult. It's the same reason why they don't let you buy land. Thailand is really good about protecting Thai people, and I respect them for it. And that's why part of why their inflation is so low, part of why things are affordable for the last five decades is because they protect their own. Foreigners can't really work here. They're doing all the right things to protect Thai people. So yeah, part of that is I respect that and I love that. And I think maybe it wouldn't even be as good of a place if I had all those options. But it would be nice if I invested money into the country, if I was here long enough, any path, a 5 year, 10-year path to like, look, if you're here 10 years, we'll at least give you residency so you can be a permanent resident. That's not really a thing here. But I also think that not a whole lot changes here. And they have a lot of ideas, but they don't follow through with very many of them. And even when they do, you can it's gray area, right? So a great example, I mean, 2 years ago, they started discussing the idea of deregulating marijuana. And before they finished the sentence, there was 8,000 marijuana places in Thailand. And now they're like, oh, I think we're going to regulate it again. And people are like, no, you're not. So Thailand is all about the gray area. And I think tourism and expats and foreigners here are a big part of their income. So I think they're
Yeah.
not going to do anything drastic, and especially the guys my age. A little selfish here, but I'm the perfect guy for that. I'm not getting in any trouble. I've put a lot of money into the country. I have, I should be their demographic that they want the most. I'm not a backpacker. I think that they like backpackers, but also the guy who comes here and like spends $18 a day and does visa runs and kind of bends every rule possible and is likely to maybe get drunk and in trouble or get into a problem. They're going to take one of me over 50 of them. So maybe that's being selfish, but I kind of feel like I'm probably a little bit protected. And worst case scenario, I guess I can always go somewhere else. I mean, I'd like that not to be the case, but it might happen naturally anyway.
Yeah. No, so many things to think about, but definitely you've made a great case for Thailand as a place to retire. And congratulations on finding this new place for yourself and your wife.
Yeah, thank you. And, like I tell people all the time, you got to come see it for yourself. There's no one fit for anybody. There's people that can. I had just one last anecdote. Is I just had a couple that came visit me from the States. One of my best friends. They're 60 years old. They're the American dream, right? High school sweethearts, raised two amazing daughters, lived in the same home for the last 30 something years, same jobs. Like they're that American dream of like did the house, the kids, the whole nine yards. They had the best 2 weeks of their lives here. They told me the best vacation they've ever had. And I said, but they would never live here. They would never consider living here. They have grandchildren. They're kind of set in their way there. I get that. So it's not for everybody. And people should have that mentality of anywhere. You have to try. You have to try it. Like no amount of videos you watch, no amount of people telling you how great it is, but I will say I've been to 60 countries, and if everywhere I've been in the world, you can find someone that doesn't like those places. I've never met a person who said they didn't like Thailand. And that says a lot. And when I tell people that, they go, hey, neither have I. And that's weird because everybody loves or hates Barcelona. Everybody loves or hates, Florida or Rome or wherever it is. Thailand, never heard anybody say that place sucks. I'm never going back. So maybe
The
there's something
land
to
of
it.
smiles for a reason.
Yeah, might be something to it. Might be a little secret, a little secret sauce.
Yeah. Well, Ramsey, thank you so much for this interview. It was really fascinating to hear about your journey there. Is there anything else you'd like to add before you go, including where can people follow you? I know you've said Ramsey Travels for your YouTube. I don't know if you
Yeah,
have any other links.
come on over to YouTube. I don't do too much other social media. So basically, come watch the channel, learn about Thailand. It's just me. If this last half hour or so was mildly entertaining or even a little helpful, then you'll love the channel. If you tuned out 10 minutes into this, you're not here now to hear this part. You made it this part. You'll like my channel. It's the same backdrop and it's the same talking head. If you like this interview, you'll love my channel. If you didn't like this interview and you stayed around just for Becky, good, but you'll hate my. That's basically the summary. But I do like a lot of like, kind of middle of the road advice. I give, I don't sugarcoat it. I have a little bit of age behind me, and I have a little bit, So I think for people looking for like, yeah, that guy is our kind of guy. It's like he's not doing the young dumb guy things. He's not super rich or super poor. He's got a wife. So if people want to know what this kind of life is like, that's my channel. It gives people that advice, pretty clearly. If you want to know how to live here on $12 a day and where the best girly bars are, not my channel.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I hope you have a great day, Ramsey. Enjoy Thailand and hope to meet you again in person one day.
Yeah, you'll come visit sooner or later. Everybody does.
All right. Have a great day.